If you guys are looking for a truck that can tow and haul bigger loads versus a typical half-ton truck, it doesn't get much better versus a Ford Super Duty. This nameplate has been in the US since 1999, and last year Ford decided to give the latest Super Duty a full redesign, moving it to its fifth generation. It has strengthened internals like a new and stronger frame, it has more power underneath the hood, and it also has best-in-class towing and hauling capabilities, up to 40,000 pounds of towing and up to 8,000 pounds of payloads. So as you can see, this week Ford has loaned us this 2024 F-350 Limited with the single reared wheel and the high output 6.7 liter Powerstroke diesel. And the big question I want answered, for those of you who are wealthy enough to have some big toys that you have to haul around, how does the latest version of the F-350 Limited stack up? Stay tuned to find out. So before we start talking about the all-new styling for this 5th generation Super Duty, I thought I'd pop the hood and show you guys what's powering this thing. Now, Ford now offers a choice of 4 different powertrains for this truck. This model that I'm showing you here is the top engine, a 6.7 liter, turbo diesel V8 engine. Now, this engine is actually a new addition for 2023, and it is the most powerful engine that you're going to find in the 3/4 and 1 ton truck segment. The company's 6.7 liter pushrod V8 engine. It's a turbo diesel V8 with a single turbo. The turbo itself has actually been upgraded versus the turbo that you get in the standard output version. It has a water-cooled feature, it has additional cooling, and that ups the power of this powertrain to 500 horsepower and 1,200 pound-feet of torque. That's right, 1,200 pound-feet of torque. That's just an insane amount. That is up about 30 horsepower versus the standard output version of this engine, and about 150 more pound-feet of torque. It all goes out through a 10-speed automatic transmission. It's a beefed-up transmission, of course, to handle the engine's output. The standard output diesel also uses the same transmission. The other choices are 2 gas V8s, a 6.8 liter and a 7.3 liter gas V8. That's going to be saved for a different review. Ford doesn't quote a 0 to 60 time for this truck, but I'm going to test it out when we get it out on the road. This vehicle, this particular model that I'm showing you, will tow a maximum of 27,000 pounds. That's with conventional towing. If you guys can do a 5th wheel towing, it'll do up to 35,500 pounds. Payload capacity is a little over 4,400 pounds for this model. Remember, if you guys want to tow the most, 40,000 pounds, you'll be looking at an F-450 XL with 2-wheel drive with the high output diesel engine. If you guys want to tow or haul the most in the bed at 8,000 pounds, you'll be looking at an F-350 with a long bed in 2-wheel drive configuration. So you have to get a specific model to get the highest towing and hauling capabilities. This truck is kind of like in the middle in terms of size, but it's also the highest trim level. So in terms of the curb weight, as this truck sits, it weighs in at just under 7,500 pounds. So yes, this is a very heavy truck, but it's got tons of power to basically push it around and to haul and tow heavy loads. But let's go ahead and close up this hood and talk about the exterior styling. Now, I'm not used to reviewing vehicles or standing by trucks that practically come up to my shoulder height when you stand up next to it, but you can see the Super Duty in general is one of the biggest vehicles that you can buy brand new. It never lets you forget it's a Super Duty because obviously it has Super Duty stamped in the actual hood itself. This particular gray exterior color looks really good with the sun hitting it. And then the limited trim that I'm showing you is the top trim level. It's kind of almost on the same level as a Platinum and King Ranch, but the limited comes with a lot of things standard, like that diesel engine, which is $12,500 extra. It also has a unique grille where it has the satin chrome for the grille. It's got the big blue oval emblem. It has a different insert compared to the Platinum or the King Ranch. And then you also get the upgraded projector style full LED headlights with an LED daytime running light, a C-clamp shaped LED daytime running light and turn signal, LED low and high beams. You also have LED fog lights down here. You have these chrome tow hooks along with some nice signature parking sensors. You can see down there is the front air dam. That's for aerodynamics, but it will obviously get in the way if you guys plan to do off-roading. My truck is lacking the FX4 off-road package, which I would highly recommend for 500 bucks. Sadly, on the Limited, you cannot get the Tremor off-road package, so I would probably step down to a Platinum to get that for an extra 4,500 bucks. Now, looking at the side profile, you can see I have to back up pretty far because this is a huge truck. Obviously, The one that I'm showing you is the crew cab configuration, which means you have the 4 full-size doors, and you can take your pick between either a 6.75 foot long bed or an 8 foot long bed. The one that I'm showing you is the 6.75 foot, so it's the standard bed. It has a just under 160 inch long wheelbase with an overall length of around 250 inches. It's about 82 inches tall and 80 inches wide. So again, very big truck. It's around almost 20 inches longer than an F-150 Super Crew. Now looking at the wheels, you can see these are the 20-inch machine and gray painted two-spoke or two-tone wheels that you get with the platinum or the limited grade. You can see it's got a Bridgestone Dweller all-terrain tire wrapped in a 275 by 65 R20-inch wheel. You have a 14.5-inch rotor front and rear. You have a live axle suspension at the front and a live axle leaf spring suspension at the rear. Coil springs obviously at the front. Here you have 9.1 inches of ground clearance with this trim, which is still a pretty good amount. But again, I would probably, happily add the FX4 off-road package. You can see there's a badge here that shows that you have the limited. There's some functional vents over here. The mirrors, these are the standard tow mirrors. They are power folding with integrated turn signals. And then this particular trim here also comes standard with the big twin panel sunroof. That's typically $1,500 extra on the other trims. Standard on this trim, you can see it has that usual dip. All the F-Series trucks have that, where it allows you to have better visibility. There's a nice little aluminum chrome look to the door handles, which definitely gives it a more premium look. And then over here you can see that red accented 6.7 lets people know that you have the high output version of the diesel engine, which is definitely, a nice little bragging right. Now, looking over at the bed of the truck, you can see 6 3/4 length is pretty long. I mean, this is the reason why you go for a half or 3/4 or 1-ton truck, because you can get up to an 8 foot long bed. Love the additional step here that allows short people like myself to kind of get into the bed. My truck has, for $2,500, a retractable tonneau cover. 4-wheel drive here, obviously badging to show that you've got 4-wheel drive. It'll be replaced with an FX4 badge. FX4 off-road if you go for that package. You can see, looking at the rear, the styling changes are pretty evolutionary. I mean, you can instantly recognize this as a Super Duty. You can see the taillights have a full LED design. That's the radar sensor for the blind spot. I also love the kind of jeweled crystal look that you get with the turn signal. You can see it's LED with the turn signal and for the reverse lights as well. The limited truck has that big metal or aluminum accented plate going across the tailgate that spells out limited. The Ford badge is off to the side. There's your usual tow hitch connector. Remember, my truck, this particular one, will tow up to 27,000 pounds. And then you can see your backup camera is integrated over here along with your parking sensors. All of that is very important. There's also a full 360 camera around this truck. Now, some new features for 2023 that were introduced is that power opening and closing tailgate. And then you're also probably noticing when the tailgate is down, first of all, there is that typical step that allows you to kind of get into the truck, where you can also pull this out and help short people like myself get in. There's also a ruler that's built into the actual tailgate itself. But you also want to notice the actual parking sensors here at the top of the tailgate, along with a backup camera. That's a secondary system that really is nice to have, especially if you are driving around with the tailgate down. I know a lot of people who do this a lot have probably experienced slamming their tailgate into something when you're backing up because the sensors are down on the bumper. This secondary set is great for, again, keeping you from doing that. You can see my particular truck has the spray-in bed liner along with the tonneau cover. This allows up to 4,400 pounds of payload. There's also the Pro Power on board that you can find to the side over here, up to 2 kilowatts. Not quite as much as what you get for the F-150, but again, still usable. The spray-in bed liner in this truck is around $500 extra, and it also has some nice LED lighting and tie-down hooks. So obviously, if you guys need a longer bed, Ford will happily sell you an 8-foot-long version. But again, this is around a foot and a third longer versus the bed that you're going to find in a Super Crew F-150. So moving on to the interior of the 5th generation F-350. Obviously, the exterior of the truck is instantly recognizable. And when you guys get inside, you're also going to notice some elements that it shares with the F-150. Before we get inside, however, let me show you guys the key fob. You can see this is Ford's latest intelligent access key. Push button start with keyless entry is not standard on the base version of the Super Duty, but obviously it is on this limited truck. I don't love Ford's key fob because I think it's a little bulky. It feels a little plasticky, but you have your usual buttons here for unlock, lock, remote start. You can also open up the lift gate and then activate a panic function as well. As I approach the truck, you can see conventional door handle where there's a lock button here that locks the door for you. If I touch that, you can see the mirrors will also fold in. You can turn that feature off. To unlock it, just touch the back of the door handle. That will unlock the door for you. Now, the gray exterior of my test truck is complemented very nicely by the stone gray and Admiral Blue full leather interior. This is a unique interior color combination for the limited trims. The Platinums and the King Ranches will have a different color interior, obviously. I love the diamond quilted leather that you get. This model also has the Max Recline front seats, so it basically allows you to fold it down completely and take a nap, for example, if you're at a rest stop or if you're trying to take a break on the job site. You can see the door panel has beautiful blue leather stitching across the upper portion here where it's nice and padded with the contrasting stitching. You have some genuine carbon fiber trim padded over here, and you can see down on these areas it is hard touch plastic, but you do have some nice storage here, and here you can see there's also an upgraded Bang & Olufsen stereo, which sounds among the best in the segment. Although I haven't had a chance to sample the newest and latest Ram, of course, I'm imagining Ram will be working on an upgraded audio system for the next generation heavy duty. Now you can see the seats, they adjust in 14 different ways. They also are heated, ventilated, and massaging. And you also get a 3-person memory function here. The window controls, they are one touch up down for the front windows, not for the rear, however. I would have liked to see Ford just give us one touch for the rear as well for all 4. The tow mirrors give you the ability to extend them out if you'd like. And all the buttons and switchgear have that typical high quality feel that you get with other Ford vehicles. Now the step, the power retractable running board is definitely a nice touch to help short people like myself get in. There's also a nice little grab handle here to hoist yourself into the truck. And as I get in and shut the door has a nice solid sounding thunk. Remember, the frame is not all new, but Ford has definitely beefed it up and strengthened it to allow this truck to haul and tow even heavier loads. Now, starting the truck up, you can see the start stop button is here where you'd expect it to be. And then when it starts up, you can hear it starts up very quickly, typical diesel clatter sound. But it also it settles into a very smooth and refined idle, and you can still hear that it sounds like a diesel truck, but the engine also revs pretty quickly, and I'm just impressed with the overall refinement of this thing. Now, looking at the rest of this cabin, you can see the blue is kind of carried over onto the rest of the dash. I love the upgraded materials that you get. I also love the steering wheel that comes on the limited trim. It has the platinum style Ford logo here, where it's not blue, it's instead kind of has like an aluminum tint to it. The steering column itself is a power tilt and telescoping, which is nice. You also have limited badging here along with some carbon fiber trim. No paddles on the wheel, but you can see this controls your Ford driver assistance tech, your audio controls, and then you can also control the way this gauge cluster looks here. If you guys want to adjust a couple of things, you can do so by pushing that button here to show your driver assistance, your trip information, all that stuff. That 12-inch digital cluster is a new addition for the Super Duty. Previously, in the previous generation, you couldn't get a full digital cluster, along with that heads-up display included with this trim as standard equipment, which is nice. And then every trim except the base XL will have this massive 12-inch touchscreen with Sync 4A technology. It has wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. Again, this is not the newest system like the Ford digital experience that you get in the Explorer or the Lincoln digital experience in the Nautilus, but Sync 4A works fine. There are just times where I notice it will lag and it's a little bit slow to boot up, depending, of course, on, if you need the system to work as quickly as possible. Now, looking over here on the upper dash, you can see there's leather covering the instrument panel hood, plastic over here, but the leather kind of extends to this portion here. You can see there's more carbon fiber. That's technically a secondary glove box. Just push that, it opens up to reveal additional storage. I like how there's Super Duty stamped right there along this trim piece here. This is plastic with kind of a textured finish to it. It extends over to this side as well. It looks nice, but it doesn't feel all that high quality when you touch it. You can see you've got some controls over here for your headlight, for the mirror lights. You can also open up the tailgate over here. Your power adjustable pedals are also located right here. Ford is one of the few brands that still offers that, which is nice for getting in and finding a nice comfortable driving position. The horn, it sounds pretty typical, nondescript, but it sounds appropriate given the size of the truck. You can see the 12-inch display over here where my phone is connected via wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. You can also do a split screen if you'd like, although that greatly makes that screen look a lot smaller. It has embedded GPS, of course, and you guys have seen me show you Sync 4A before. It actually works pretty well. The menu structure is all located down here where your different sources are. You can also go into features. You can adjust the driver assistance, go into your onboard scales. That's definitely a really great feature to have, especially if you guys plan to tow and haul things in the bed constantly. It really tells you exactly how much is in there. You can see it shows you your max payload, which the scale is now showing at 3852. I mentioned earlier was 4,400. That's what I saw online, but again, this is what the truck is showing me now, so I'll have to go with that number there and update you guys on the on-screen graphics. You can see that's definitely useful. One of my favorite features. Driver assistance, you can kind of go in there and adjust that. You can see as I go through the system, you can see it's a little bit laggy and slow. Don't love that. There's your Pro Power on board where it tells you how many kilowatts or watts it's pulling when you guys are using that. So that's also a pretty nice touch. There's your embedded GPS. Ford's navigation isn't anything super special. Most of you will end up using the CarPlay anyways. You can see there's a dedicated tow screen here where you can manage your different trailers. You can add trailers. You can also, go to your trailer brake controller over here, I'm sorry, with your Pro Trailer Backup Assist. I had a chance to try that feature out on a Ranger last week, and I was pretty impressed with how the whole system works in general. It's very useful if you guys are a novice when it comes to towing like myself. You can see there's big knobs here and actual buttons for the dual zone climate. You have a volume knob and a tuning knob here. Your four-wheel drive system is over here. You can see it's a part-time system where it has locking rear diff, has a 4 high and a 4 low, 2 high mode, no automatic setting, and then you can see your drive mode selector. There's a total of 4 or 5 different drive modes: an eco, a tow haul, a normal mode, and then a slippery, and then there's an off-road mode. Now I imagine if you guys go for the FX4 off-road package or the Tremor package, you also get additional drive modes, but my truck doesn't have that feature. You can see there's a wireless phone charging pad here. There's a nice little lid that has more carbon fiber that you can close up. You can see 2 sets of cup holders here, it almost appears like, although I'm not really sure what this is for, although you can kind of move this over to the side. Love that feature, actually. That's to go over the cup holder lid, or you can kind of create another tiered storage over here. You have a nice big limited badge here along with your VIN number to show what number yours is, to remind you you've got a special truck. Open that up, you can see there's a nice little center console area that allows for some nice storage. Love the contrasting stitching, it's nice and padded. I also love the way the seats are. They're very comfortable and supportive. On longer drives, I found myself using the massage feature, and I was just kind of enjoying the actual drive. To activate the massage, there's a button on the seat itself. Push that button, you can see that turns the massage on. And you can see there's 5 different levels of massage. That's also included on the Platinum trim, I believe. But again, it's an unexpectedly nice feature to have, especially when you're looking at this price point. Open up the glove compartment, you can see it's a little small. It's a bin style, it's damped but not lined with felt. You have more power over here along with your 12 volt. In terms of USBs, there's a USB-A and a USB-C here. Although I'm surprised Ford didn't have more USBs. There's a little bit more storage over here. But overall, this interior is pretty similar to what you guys will find in the top versions of the F-150, and that's kind of a good thing because you'll kind of get into this truck and you'll be familiar and you'll know how to mostly use all the tech in this truck. Now looking at the back seat of this F-350 with the crew cab configuration, you can see if you guys need a big back seat to carry your tall friends or family members, you're gonna love what Ford has to offer here. There's around 43.6 inches of legroom, which is actually the same legroom as the front seat area. So these seats, again, are among the most spacious. Although if you want a bigger back seat, the Ram HD Mega Cab does offer a little bit more rear seat legroom, but the Ram Mega Cab doesn't tow or haul as much as the Super Duty. You can see the nice materials carry over onto the rear door panels, where it's still nice and padded over here. You have a nice padded area here, 2 levels of storage, metal speaker covers for the B&O stereo. And then if you want, you can also fold this seat up to reveal some storage underneath here. You can also flip this up to kind of, again, create a little storage compartment there. But overall, you can see the rear seat has the same beautiful diamond quilted leather with the 2-tone Admiral Blue and the slate gray. Now getting inside, you can see there's a nice grab handle here. I'll hoist myself up and drag myself into this back seat area. Shut the door, you can see that's essentially where I have the seat to drive, and there's just a ton of space for me to stretch my legs out. There's a ton of floor space. There's also a completely flat floor here. The truck is 80 inches wide, so you could easily fit 3 wide Americans across the rear seat, which is nice. You have rear seat air vents back here, along with 2 level heated rear seats and 2 USB-C charging ports. Surprised there's no cooled seats in this truck. You do have some cup holders here, along with some power outlets, 12 volt and an actual household outlet there. I also would like to see retractable sunshades, especially at this price point. I do love the fact that the headliner is a microfiber suede design. You can see the panoramic sunroof also comes all the way into the back and also has a retractable shade. This is $1,500 extra in other trims, but it's standard equipment in this truck. You can see this window also will slide open if you guys would like. And you can see there's also an armrest that folds down and gives you 2 cup holders, which is a nice touch. I also forgot to mention there's your upfitter auxiliary switches that is included on this particular trim. It's an extra $400 on other trims. If you guys regularly need to hook up equipment like a snowplow, for example, that's a great feature to have from the factory because it allows you to kind of hook it up and then have it work through the actual screens for your usual controls for that aftermarket stuff. But overall, the backseat area is definitely huge and spacious. I don't really think you would need more legroom than this. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of Americans love these full-size trucks, is because the rear seat has enough space for your tall friends, or you can put car seats back here, and it's just a great place to spend time. So here we are behind the wheel of the latest generation of Ford's Super Duty. It's been about 4 years since I had a chance to drive a Super Duty, and the last one that I drove was a gas-powered Tremor model with the 7.3-liter Godzilla V8. Now obviously this model that I'm driving is a completely different animal thanks to, of course, its 6.7-liter Powerstroke high-output diesel engine, and this model that we're driving is also the luxury-oriented limited trim. So I have to say, with 500 horsepower and 1,200 pound-feet of torque, 1,200 pound-feet of torque, this has the most powerful production diesel engine in its segment. It outmuscles the Ram by about 100 horsepower and outmuscles the GMC and Chevy by about 30 more horsepower and tons more torque. It's also paired up with a 10-speed, a beefed up 10-speed automatic transmission with part-time four-wheel drive, of course, included on this trim. Ford doesn't quote a 0 to 60 time, but you know what? I'm curious to see what we can get. Now, to get the best 0 to 60 time, it needs to be in four-wheel drive high because it has so much bloody torque. It's going to literally spin out the wheels, the rear wheels, if you don't have it in four-wheel drive. I wish there was an automatic setting, but there isn't. There's no sport mode in the transmission or in the drivetrain, so I basically just have it in normal mode, and then we'll basically see if we can come to a stop here. We'll brake torque it and see what this thing will do. Oh! The torque that you feel from this thing is absolutely nuts. All right, 0 to 60 in 8 seconds there. Now I have to say that felt a little bit slow, so I'm not entirely sure why it didn't feel as quick as I thought. Now, I also noticed the truck did not like it when I was brake torquing it. It actually threw like a pre-collision unavailable, but now the warning light has cleared itself, so I'll try it again because I think this truck can actually do it a lot faster. There was times where I noticed it was cutting the power, so perhaps we just won't try, we won't brake torque it. But I have to say the smoothness of this diesel engine is just bar to none because it is refined, it is smooth. The 10-speed also shifts very quickly because you have a very narrow torque band in this powertrain because it's a diesel, so you kind of have to, you know, have those multiple gears to get you out of the hole. But let's try flooring it here this time. We won't brake torque it this time. Oof. Literally shifts at around 3,200 RPM. All right, there we got 8.19 seconds there. So the one thing I noticed with this engine is it has turbo lag. It's interesting to feel because most modern vehicles, they just don't have that turbo lag anymore because of the twin scroll designs. But these diesels, you're gonna definitely feel the turbo lag when you're putting your foot down. But then once the turbo spools up, you can literally feel the shove into your seat, and it almost makes you feel like your stomach is behind you. It gives you that kind of tunnel vision that I experience in EVs, which is weird to say in a big, heavy truck like this, because remember, we're driving around in a truck that has a 6 3/4 foot long bed. It's 250 inches long. It literally weighs almost 7,500 pounds, which is heavy, I know, but technically I've driven heavier trucks. The Rivian R1T actually weighs the same as this. A Hummer EV weighs more than this, the SUV, because of the big battery packs. But you just get a sense that you're king of the road in these things. And that's kind of what I love about these 3/4 and half ton or full ton, 1 ton trucks is, you know, if you guys, you know, are so used to driving these, you're gonna get into something like an F-150 and feel like you're driving a small vehicle. Now, I'm not gonna tell you that this is a really easy truck to drive. I mean, if you're used to driving big vehicles, this is going to be a piece of cake. The steering is a recirculating ball electric power steering assist system. It's got live axles in the front and live axles in the rear with leaf springs, so it never lets you forget that you're driving a truck. It's constantly, you know, bogging around. You can feel the jitteriness from the suspension. And remember, this truck that I'm driving is built to tow up to 27,000 pounds. Now, sadly, I won't be doing any towing in this video. If you guys are looking for an excellent tow video, I will happily, you know, refer you to my colleagues from the Fast Lane Truck and, of course, Alex on Autos, who do fantastic tow videos. But put your foot down here. Oh, that torque is just instant at that point. It just feels a little laggy when you're first putting your foot down. But once it gets going, man, this thing feels really good. And that's kind of the whole point of the diesel powertrains, is you don't have to rev them. They just have that effortless feel that's necessary to move around a vehicle, a truck that weighs this much, especially if you're planning to tow, you know, heavy loads with this thing. You're gonna need that extra power and extra torque. But floored there, it's in 2-wheel drive this time. Such quick shifts, love that. 8.16 there, so That's the best that I can get, is a little over 8 seconds. I swear I saw Car and Driver test one of these, a 250, and they got like 5.5 seconds. Not sure how. The truck did not like brake torquing, as you guys saw. It really just bogged and then threw pre-collisions warning unavailable. So most truck buyers who buy this thing aren't going to be doing that. I just try to do it for demonstration purposes to see, you know, what it's like. But wow, you can really see that 160-inch long wheelbase. I can usually make that turn there with no problem, but this thing actually went into the other lane. And that's where I am like, it could use rear wheel steering, but again, everything's kind of to a price point here. But just driving the truck normally around, you know, these curvy roads, I have to say the seats are extremely comfortable. These are the max recline seats. They have the massage feature, so I'm sitting here getting a massage, which is fantastic. The view out of the front, the side, of the rear is good. I also love the diesel exhaust brake function. I have it turned on right now, where it essentially will use the exhaust brake from the diesel to slow the vehicle down to help it coast a little bit better, so you don't have to get on the brakes quite as often, which is necessary when you're driving around a vehicle like this. You want additional auxiliary brakes, especially if your guys are going to be towing heavy loads. The driver assistance stuff in this truck also works pretty well. They don't offer Ford's Blue Cruise technology on this car, where it's totally hands-free, but they do have their latest Copilot 360. It's got adaptive cruise control. It also has lane keep assist, lane departure alert, automatic emergency braking. The engine is also smooth, quiet, and refined, although again, you can hear that it's a diesel, but it's one of the most refined diesels that I've ever driven. And I think that's important, especially when you consider if you're trading in your old Powerstroke F Super Duty from like 20 years ago. Those were just really noisy monsters that sounded like you were piloting around in a school bus. Not so much with this vehicle. If you turn on the exhaust brake, you'll notice that it's not going to be quite engine braking as much, which is nice, especially if you guys, you know, don't want to be feeling it bog a little bit. But that exhaust braking is definitely a necessary thing when you guys are driving on steep declines, for example. But it's also just really quiet in here in terms of NVH. There's not very much road and wind noise, just a little bit of that diesel engine noise, which is what you expect. It's a satisfying sound when people are driving a vehicle like this. And then in terms of the efficiency, these trucks are not rated to get any kind of MPG because they are past a certain, you know, gross weight rating. But in my week's worth of testing, I actually averaged around 16.5 MPG in city driving. On the highway, this truck was getting around 18 miles to the gallon. Nearly 20 miles to the gallon in something this big and this heavy and with the aerodynamics of a brick. Now, obviously, if you guys are going to be towing heavy loads, it's going to get significantly less than that. But when you've got that 34-gallon fuel tank, this truck was easily doing 550 plus miles of range on ultra low sulfur diesel. However, 34-gallon fuel tank, you're going to be spending 150 to 200 bucks on fill-ups, depending on what the price of diesel is in your area. So obviously it's not a cheap truck to run, but it does have excellent range and efficiency for what it is. And it's also one of the most luxurious, one of the most comfortable trucks out there. And it's also the newest. Remember, this is the 5th generation Super Duty. It introduces some Super Duty firsts, like the fully digital instrument cluster, the heads-up display. I essentially get the feeling that I'm like in basically a supersized F-150. It has an interior that's pretty identical with the 12-inch displays. It's quiet, it's refined, it's smooth, the seats are comfortable. So yes, if you guys are basically looking for an F-150 that can tow and haul even heavier loads, but you don't want to give up any of the luxury and practicality that you get with these, you know, 3/4 and full-ton trucks, the Super Duty is obviously the newest one out there. But just keep in mind, you're going to be paying a pretty penny, especially if you guys want this fully loaded model that I'm showing you here. So with a little over 750,000 units sold in the US last year, the Ford F-Series continues to be the best-selling vehicle in the US. It's been that way for decades, and after spending some time with the latest 5th generation version of the Super Duty, it's pretty clear to me that Ford has essentially taken all the things that they've learned and perfected from the F-150 and grafted it onto their larger 3/4 and 1-ton trucks. This limited version that I'm showing you obviously is the most expensive pinnacle version of the Super Duty, and I have to say, the thing that impressed me the most is the interior. If you guys like the interior of the latest F-150, you can see that 12-inch touchscreen is also massive. It's easy to use. The seats are among the most comfortable. Love the massage feature, and this thing has plenty of space on the inside, even in the rear seat. Although something like the Ram Mega Cab will offer a little bit more rear seat space, I'd argue that honestly this thing is going to have enough room for even the largest and tallest of people. The engine, as you guys saw, never lets you forget that it's a diesel with its sounds, but it also is very refined, it's very smooth, it's really torque rich. I was a little disappointed with the 0 to 60 time of just over 8 seconds, especially when I've seen some magazines say it's going to be in the 5-second range. I just have trouble actually getting that number in the real world. Most people, again, don't really care about 0 to 60 times. They care about the general feel, and this is where that truck really shines, because the 10-speed auto is among the smoothest and quickest shifting transmissions. It also just feels like this thing is built like a tank. It feels like it can tow and haul heavy loads all day without breaking a sweat. And again, that's the whole reason why you wanted to buy a Super Duty truck. Obviously, there are a couple of cons with this vehicle. The Super Duty still don't have the best ride quality in the segment. The Ram is going to give you that with its rear air suspension that you can get as part of an option package. And some of you, again, may not be big fans of the design. Really, in this class of vehicle, there's a lot of loyal truck buyers out there. There's not really a wrong choice out there. But again, if you want the newest truck out there with the most power under the hood, the bragging rights when it comes to towing and hauling, you should definitely be putting this latest Super Duty at the top of your list. Now, if you guys are looking to purchase one of these vehicles, they are at Ford dealers already. And pricing, base pricing for a Super Duty F-350 in the XL package regular cab, that's going to start at around $44,900, which is actually the lowest price in the segment. It's around $1,000 to $2,000 less versus its rivals. Going up to a 350 is going to cost you around $1,200 more. Most of you are probably going to go to an XLT trim for around $52,000. A Lariat's going to start at around $68,000. A Platinum and a King Ranch is around $78,000. This Limited that I'm showing you here starts at around $98,000. It's essentially got all the bells and whistles. The only option that my test truck has is the retractable tonneau cover and the locking rear diff. That balloons the price to a little under $104,000. I know $104,000 is absolutely insane, but again, this is the most expensive version of the Super Duty. Essentially, if you guys don't, look at a 450 with the dual rear wheels, but its pricing also falls in line with the latest versions of the GMC Sierra HD and of course the Ram 3500. So Ford has kind of done a good job there with pricing the latest Super Duty. Well, with that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on this brand new 2024 F-350 Limited. If you're also looking to see the latest trucks I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.